And his talk is about some lessons learned, guidance on how to make open source development a success. Welcome on stage.
Yeah, thank you, Luisa, and everyone who is involved here in organizing the conference. So there's a lot of work involved. Thank you for making this happen. Yeah, as you already said, my name is Tobias Baader. I work for the company OpenCloud, and today I want to tell you the story, what lessons we learned and what mistakes we did in the couple of last years. But before we start, I have a question, and that is, what do you think, who is the richest fictional character? So the Forbes list always has these lists of the richest persons. What do you think, who is the richest one? So here's the menu. For example, Scrooge McDuck or Batman, aka Bruce McWayne. Make a guess. Just say aloud if you think you know who it could be. Bruce Wayne. Donald Duck. Okay, so the winner is Smaug from The Hobbit. And if you reimagine the movie, he lives in this huge cave, and his or her fortune is estimated at about 62 billion. And he or she is actually a really, really poor guy, because the richest real person on Earth owns $320 billion. And why am I telling this? I think this is really crazy, because here the real world has surpassed fiction. Usually it's the other way around. And I'm telling this because I think any kind of centralization threatens the real world, the real free internet as we know it. Which is built of decentralization and open access, net neutrality, and all these building blocks. And yeah, we started the project because we think open cloud can be one of these building blocks. So we released the code under Apache 2 and GPL license, and we drive development as a for-profit company. So we don't sell the software itself, of course, but we sell service and support, and community usage and contributions are very welcome. So yeah, it's basically a file cloud, like OneDrive, but under a free license, and it's really simple and reliable, and to maintain for admins. So the project started almost 5 years ago, and what you see here are the GitHub stars, and here there's a good graph, nice social signal here that the project is evolving. But this year something happened. We saw a massive increase. But what actually here happened was that we forked our own project. I don't want to talk about this. This would be a different talk. So OpenCloud is a fork of OwnCloud Infinite Scale. And the notable thing here is that we gained in 6 months as many stars as in the 5 previous years. So the question is, my smileys are all gone, I'm sorry. The question is, what did go wrong here? Not only with the smiley, and the first learning we had is that that almost nobody understood the real value of having our software as open source software. So when we asked customers or prospects, what do you think is the advantage of having our software as open source software, the most often answer was cost savings. And this is bad news if you want to pay the salary of the whole team. But we could have also asked a different question, and that could have been, if you would buy a coffee machine, would you rather prefer kind of Nespresso capsules, or would you prefer ground coffee? And here the answer is usually quite clear for most persons who want to be independent of how to fuel their coffee machines, and they want to own the machine itself. So what we did wrong was we usually when we talked about open source, we talked on the feature level of open source, and that is that the source code itself is available, which is not so interesting for most people. We sometimes talked about the benefit level, where you can inspect, adapt, and modify the code, which is a little bit more interesting for some people, but is not really a game changer for many people. And the most interesting thing, and we've totally failed to talk about this, is that it gives you freedom and sets you free from any login. And we didn't do that, simply. We thought that would be obvious. So a second learning was that being open, having the code open is not enough. So we released the code under free license, but the whole organization, the whole discussions, plannings, all that stuff happened in a closed repository with proprietary software. So that means that from outside, the whole project was a black box. You could see what's the input, what's the output, but you didn't know how we came to the output. So luckily, this is not Confluence, this is Atlassian. Atlassian discontinued the on-prem licenses, so we were forced to move somewhere else, which was a really, really good thing. So we moved the whole discussions and issues and decisions, we all moved that to GitHub. And we have now our a paradigm where we say anything we do is open by default, and only if we really, really need to be to have information not publicly available, we have a closed repository for that. So this still exists because sometimes we cannot make information public because of customers, but that's only, I would say, less than 10%. So most of the things are open, and the policy is to be open by default. This is how it looks like. This is our sprint planning board. You can see any sprint, even with the effort estimations here, story points, priority, epics. This is what we did already, sprint 1 at the beginning of the year. We have an open roadmap where you can see our plans, and there are also our architecture decision records, for example. This is just a write-up about some architectural decisions, so that after some years, this would prevent for us confusion if we don't know, hey, why we did it that way or not that way, so we can just read what we thought back in the time. So bottom line is there is no more behind the scenes now anymore. And the third and maybe most important learning for us was to keep things really, really simple. And I've brought one example here, which is a little bit technical, but I think it's easy to understand. So we had much experience, more than 14 years of experience with PHP file clouds like OwnCloud and Nextcloud. And we asked ourselves, so what is the component within this ecosystem that causes the most incidents for us? And there is a really clear winner, and this is the database. And why is that? So what you need to understand, if you upload a file into the cloud, at least in these PHP-based systems, the file gets split up into two parts. The one part is the file blob, the actual file, you would say. This is, in this example, it's the image. And the other part are the metadata. So the metadata are file name, modified date, and all that. And what happens is that the metadata go to the database, which is kind of the office in a storage picture, and the actual file, the file blob, goes to the storage, to the hard drive, so to speak, which is okay, because the storage is big and cheap, and in the office you do all the paperwork. The problem with this design is that you need to keep both systems, the office and the storage, in sync. So if you lose information on your paperwork in your database, the file is, from a user perspective, is lost. So you have then a data loss. which is what we always need to avoid by all means. This is where the red lamp goes on, and yeah, this is the worst case scenario for us, data loss. So our solution we came up with is that we have no more database to persist storage on the long run. We just save the metadata directly on the file in the extended file attributes. So to say it with the picture, what we did is we took all the paperwork and directly pinned it on each file. And the good thing about this is that we gain massive reliability. You also don't need to maintain a database. You don't need SQL knowledge. And yeah, the system easily scales with the storage. So let's say you started with like 500 users, and then you have like 50,000 users. You can, I'm simplifying, but you can just plug in more hard drives, and the system just works. And the most important thing about that is that it makes the life of admins really, really simple, because a system like that creates a single source of truth for them, and they only need to take care about that one and not about another important, which tends to fail sometimes. Okay, so our top 3 learnings are, to sum it up, are to communicate your value clearly. Open code is not enough. It's also the whole process needs to be open, and the product itself needs to be as simple as possible to make the life of the administrators, in our case, as easy as possible, because I think, at least for me, the admins are the heroes because they take all the burden and are responsible to keeping all the systems up and running, so we want to make their life easier. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, and happy to stay in contact if you like to.
Thank you, Tobias. Are there any questions from the public? Yes, back there.
Hello, I'm a big proponent of simplifying software. I'm just curious, was there an advantage to using the database? I assume it made it faster in some way, or what,
yeah,
did you
right.
end up? Yeah,
yeah,
so
I
what was the
didn't,
cost?
Very good question.
Yeah.
So of course there's always a good reason to have a database because it's fast, and we still have a database, of course, which is Nuts.js in our case, like Redis, but we don't persist the data in the database. That's the point.
So you replaced it with a cache to
Right,
make it fast.
it's a cache.
Yep. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Just in the front.
Thank you. When you opened the backlog and the discussions and the sprint logs and everything, was it just the openness that helped you, or you also had ideas and opinions from the community and contributors that you also took in consideration?
So what is the question? What drove us to open it? Or?
No. Because you said at some point there were things behind closed door until some moment, and at some moment you opened also the process of how you come with new features, how you come up with what's next. So what I'm saying is, apart from the transparency for the external world on those things, did you also engage the external world in decision-making or ideation or something like this?
Yeah, of course. So this is the idea of having, for example, the roadmap open, so we can give a preview, and there we get pushback or thumbs up, and and people say, cool, that's what I'm waiting for, and please take care to have X, Y, and Z in it. Of course, this is the big gain in having the whole process transparent, yeah.
Thank you, Tobias.